Oh my God, y'all. This is like take 3. I will probably not be able to get the entire podcast re-recorded because I have 15 minutes until I have to leave to go pick my kids up, which is unfortunate. But I want to get at least my finished objects done because at least one of them is going to be gifted. So, real quick, hi, welcome to SomerKnits, episode 26. This one is being called Chaos Corner because I did not take the time to clean up everything, and because this is take 3 and I am losing my mind. I am not sure if I will remember to cover everything that I covered the first 2 times, and I feel like eventually the content starts to get stale the more times that I try to re-record. So here's hoping that nothing freezes up and maybe I can get a better system in place eventually. But I'm working with what I have right now. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here. I know it's been about a month since I podcasted. We have been on a road trip. We were gone for 17 days on the road and just returned actually at 1 a.m. Monday morning. So we haven't been back very long. I got quite a bit done. Not a ton of finished objects, but a lot of knitting overall, and really enjoyed the trip. But let me go ahead and share with you my finished objects just in case I have to record the rest of the episode later and these things are gone and gifted. So, the first time I recorded, this one is not a gift. I started with the Musselburgh hat. This hat I made as part of the Books and Beanies Make-Along with, was hosted by Professor Purl and the We Share Needles podcast. The recommended book was Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which was actually a pretty good read. And if you haven't read it, I do recommend it. But I did not get to join in the book discussion Monday night. I had too many kid things going on, and we had just gotten home, and I didn't make it. I also totally failed to post on the finished objects thread in Ravelry in time before it got locked. So hopefully the fact that I did post on Instagram counts. I posted it with my Kindle because we were on the road and I don't pack physical books much to travel anymore. I'm traveling with little kids, and in hotels or in the tent, it is much easier for me to read after they've gone to sleep. My dog is snoring and you might hear him. But it is much easier for me to read after they've gone to sleep on the Kindle since it has its own light and I don't need a lantern or light to read by. So I did post a picture with my Godzilla and my Kindle as soon as I finished it in the car. I have not blocked it yet. It is a super long one because I counted the repeats of the stripes on the increases, and I knit until there were just barely more than that many stripes left in the cake and did the decreases on the other end. So it's a super long tube. So I get a nice deep folded brim on it. This is Two Sisters Yarn Company. I bought it on my trip in February when I went to Yellowstone. I bought this in Bozeman, Montana at Sticks. And that was a localish to them dyer. The colorway is called Peter Cottontail, and it is just a beautiful pastel. I'm trying to refold it. Self-striping yarn. I would call it a light fingering. I feel like it's thinner than some sock yarns, but I feel like it's going to bloom nicely when I do finally give it a bath. I have not had a chance to block it yet because I wanted to be able to show it in all of its beautiful glory. So there is my 4th Musselburgh hat. And that pattern is by Isolde Teague, and I love that pattern. It's just so easy to take along with you and throw in your bag and just zip away on. My next finished object, and the one that may not be here when I do finally get to hopefully re-record this entire episode for a third time, is a pair of socks for my mom's birthday. These are the Thickness socks. The pattern is by Summer Lee Design Co. The yarn, it's so pretty that I don't know if I can, that might be showing the color the best I can. The yarn is actually from a chick that knits, and she is in the Oklahoma City area. This is one of her assigned pooling colorways called Tropical Flowers, but since I was holding it double, it did kind of change how the assigned pooling happens. It would be much more deliberate looking if I had held it single and let the yarn do what it was supposed to do. But I was holding it double to make the Thickness. These are the Thickness vanilla socks. I think that pattern set comes with 4 or 5 different patterns, and most of them are sized all the way from toddler, or maybe toddler through adult large, baby through, I don't know. You get a lot of sizes. Anyway, this was the Thickness vanilla. It's a 3x1 rib at the top. It is a gorgeous vanilla sock. The toe still looks a little pointy because these sock blockers are a size small, because I have a very small foot. And it's a US size 6.5, which means that I can shop in the kids or the grown-up section. So, but my mom's foot is a bit bigger than mine. So the yarn seems to have pooled kind of interestingly, so that 2 sides are fairly plain and 2 sides have a lot of the color flecks. So you can put them together to make a nice pair. And I know that I explained all this better the first 2 times I did it. After the first sock, I weighed the remaining pink because it was only a 20-gram mini, and I only had like just over 9 grams. So I was really afraid of running out on the toe. So I finished everything up to the toe on my road trip and waited till we got home and pulled out a purple Malabrigo sock yarn that matched the color flecks in here and finished the toe off that way. I probably would have had enough to do both heels and toes if I had not done the accent on the cuffs. But I love the way the accent looks on the cuffs. This is a technique that Summer Lee has explained a few times, where she just does the cast on edge and the first round in a contrast color and then goes to her main color. And I think it makes for a really beautiful accent and a lovely edge. My mom likes to wear her DK weight socks sticking up out of short boots, so about this much of the sock is going to show. And so I wanted both the contrast pop of bright color and the main color to show above the boot line. So I thought that was a really fun way to do that, and I really like how it turned out. I realized that it means extra ends to weave in, and normally I am opposed to anything that means extra ends to weave in, but I thought the effect was really worth it, and just beautiful. Oh, the sun has come out. So I'm excited to give these to my mom, but I was figuring on giving them to her like tomorrow or the next day, so I didn't want to hold on to these too long without recording. So anyway, when I first made them, I followed the instructions for the size medium. I knit these on size 4 9-inch circulars, and I put them on my feet before blocking, and they fit. And I was a little concerned. They didn't have any negative ease, but they did fit my foot. And I was a bit concerned because my mother's foot is bigger than mine. But they definitely softened up and opened up with blocking, and now you can see that there's like extra fabric around the sock blocker, whereas a sock truly sized to my foot is tight to the blocker. Sometimes I don't even block my socks because then they end up bigger than my actual feet. I have a pair of child-size blockers that I'll sometimes use, and a slightly smaller pair of knitting left blockers. They're a bit smaller than these plastic ones. But very excited about these. I will link the pattern name, the yarn, everything down below. The accent color is fuchsia. The main color is Tropical Flowers. And they are hand dyed by a chick that knits. So definitely worth checking her out. Her yarn is gorgeous. And I know I showed my order on the last episode, but I just wanted to reiterate that her yarn is So beautiful. It's so squishy and bouncy. Most sock yarns are at least 400 yards per 100 grams, and hers is only like 385, so you can tell it's a little bit thicker, a little bit squishier, a little bit bouncier. I still have a ton left over, though. I didn't expect, and I don't know. Oh, there's that bag. I didn't expect to have quite so much left over, and not like a ton. I need to weigh it, but still a significant amount. I could totally do something for myself with this. I mean, like little shorty socks or something. I need to weigh it. But I have a tiny bit of the accent color left. I need to weigh that also. But this would be fun to put with something else and play with. So just some fun there. But I'm just going to keep going until I have to leave, but if I have to re-record on Friday the rest of the episode, then so be it. And then hopefully I can edit it and get it up as quickly as possible. So works in progress. Again, third time. Hopefully I'm still as excited about these works in progress as I was this morning. So this was a half-finished object before, and now it is a 3/4 finished project. I went for the sisters, not twins method, so the order of the accent colors or contrasting colors is different. So on the first one, it's turquoise, then yellow, then the pinky red heel. On this one, it is the pinky red, then the turquoise, then the yellow. And then the toe will be reverse of the cuff, so it'll be turquoise, then the pink. Just like this one is the yellow and then the turquoise. So these are going by nicely. They are starting to fly now that I've gotten past the gusset decreases. Because I finished my Musselburgh hat, this is now my stockinette in the round project for on the go and waiting in car line and waiting for kids and taking in my purse. So I feel like that will really start to fly now. That is the Weekend Shorty Socks by Summerlee Design Co. I don't think I said that this time. So Weekend Shorty Socks. The yarn, the main color is a Southern Skeins color. The accents were from my basket of minis. I'm pretty sure the turquoise one came with this speckled yarn, but I am not sure about the yellow and the red. They were just in my basket of minis, so I just grabbed them because they seemed to flow well with all the different color speckles in the main color. So zipping away on that. My next work in progress has a bit of a backstory. So let's see if I can find it because I just re-recorded this like 20 minutes ago. I need to let that go, right? So a while back, my mom and I went to one of the local yarn stores. They were having a sale and she needed some hat yarn. And as part of the sale, I think it was like a grand opening sale type thing, they were giving people a full skein of the Katya Fair Cotton Craft, which is 100% organic cotton. It's fingering weight. It is 678 yards, which is a very generous size. And the way the color I chose is made, it starts at the center with this light pink. And then it progresses to quite a while of this purple. And then the very edge is all of this variegated colorway, which I can't tell if it ends up stripy or variegated, but we'll see. Anyway, what did I make with it? So I cruised Ravelry to see what other people had made with it. And a lot of people had made shawls. And I didn't want to make a shawl, but I did only want to use the one ball I'd been gifted or gotten through that promotion. So a few people had made the Anker summer shirt. And they had done it all with one ball, all the way up to a size large. The only thing is, if you wait till the end, your sleeves will end up different than your yoke. So I started the Anker summer shirt, and I cast on for a size medium. Now, the stitch count for the size medium and the size large is the same all the way through the end of the 4th ribbing section. So I've done through the 4th ribbing section. I put it on a TKB cord, and it looks like it hits me in the same place it hits the model where they split for the raglan increases to go down towards splitting for sleeves. So I am going to go ahead and divide for the raglan increases, put my stitch markers in, and start the raglans. And when I hit the stitch count for the size medium, I'm going to put it back on the TKB cord, try it back on, see where it hits. If it is not big enough, then I will continue the raglan increases to the stitch count for the size large. If it is big enough, then I will just go on and continue to follow the instructions for the size medium. But once I get about a 1/2 inch past splitting for sleeves, I am going to cut the yarn and go ahead and put the sleeves on, because as you can see, the purple section is pretty big. So I should have no problem getting through the raglan increases, cutting the yarn, putting both sleeves on in the purple so that they match up to the yoke, and then reattaching and continuing the body in the remaining yarn. And I hope to use up the whole ball and get as much length as possible out of it. I don't want it to end up cropped. We'll see. If it's too long, obviously I will stop. But at this point, the plan is to stop and put the sleeves on and then continue the body with whatever's left. So if you have thoughts, opinions, if you've used this yarn before, let me know. But that is my current plan. I did, however, only work on it for a couple of days, the first few days of the trip, because then I moved on to other things once I had a plan for this. And now I'm kind of ready to come back to it, but I have other things going on, other works in progress, so much to share with you. But I have to go pick my kids up, so back later. Costume change, and actually knitwear today. Real quick, before I get back to my works in progress, I want to talk about this top. It is the Outline Tank by Jessie made, where you have this awesome little drop stitch accent detail that is really fun because you don't see it like come to life until the end. You get to drop the stitch all at once, and it's really fun to watch it fall. I made this top in Kelborn Woolen's Mojave, and I absolutely love it. It's cool, breezy, loose, flowy, and it was the only knit top I took with me on our road trip, and I did wear it when we were in the Badlands, and I felt kind of self-conscious because of how see-through the drop stitches are, and I know talking about body stuff can be controversial, but because I've gained weight over the last 2 years, and even over the last year since I made it, I just felt self-conscious. But looking back at the photos from our trip, I think the photos from that day in this top are actually my favorite photos of me from the trip. And that's partly because, I made this top to fit me. And even though my body has changed a little bit, it is loose and floaty, and it's still like the right length for me. Obviously, my height didn't change. And everything else. I do think that it would be nice to shorten the straps. I've just never gotten around to it. Sometimes I wash it and put it on a rack in the dryer to try and shrink the straps back up, but they do stretch out again. So I just wear a sports bra or tank top under it, and I just really like this top. I'll see if I can stand up without it getting too awkward to show the length. So I did lengthen it from what the pattern calls for. My natural waist is up here. I'm very short-waisted. I don't have a lot of space between my underarm and my actual natural waist, which means I don't have a lot of space between my lower bust line and my waist. I did lengthen it a little bit because that helps visually make my proportions look a little more even. So it hits me mid-hip, but I like that because I can wear it with all kinds of things. And today I just have it on with black lace shorts. But I do really love this top, and I absolutely recommend the pattern. The instructions are super clear, and it's really fun to do that drop stitch detail at the end. My straps do roll a little bit. I kind of wish I had increased the width just a tiny bit to make them just a hair wider. I think it's a function of maybe the yarn choice, but the Kelborn Woolens Mojave, which is a cotton linen blend, is amazing and so breathable, and I absolutely would use it again. In fact, I have 6 skeins of it in my craft room that I got for Christmas from my kids and my husband. I have intended to do a Look at My Holes by James N. Watts, and haven't gotten to it yet. I've also intended to do a, if this is the outline tank, there's another tee, the Open Edge tee by Jessie made, and I really think I'd get a lot of use out of that one, and I think it would be beautiful. So definitely recommend the yarn, definitely recommend the pattern. And it is cloudy again today. I've shifted things around, trying to get more light, and hopefully there's enough light that the colors on everything show properly. But once again, I'm afraid of losing everything because of how much I lost on Wednesday, going through the recording twice and then starting over a third time. So it might be a little choppy. I'm recording in short chunks, and I will string them all together, and hopefully we will have the semblance of a reasonable episode. Let's see. Next, work in progress. So I think when I was filming on Wednesday that I already showed the Anker's summer shirt, but I have divided for the raglans and started that since filming on Wednesday, and you can see that it's starting to fade to the purple, which is awesome. So that's just a quick update on where that's going. I am waiting on yarn for yet another test knit. I know, a glutton for punishment, but I could not resist because Laura of Penrose Knits is test knitting the Chantilly cardigan, and I had asked a while back to be on that list, and I just love the design. I think it'll knit up quickly once I can start, but the yarn isn't here yet. So in the meantime, I was trying to get the raglans done on that so that I can try it on and see where it hits me. My other road trip work in progress was something that's been on my list for a really long time. I bought this pattern the day it came out, and I've gone back and forth on my yarn choice so many times, but I am so happy with what I finally chose. I have started the Petal Party Crop by Samantha Guerin, and the light isn't showing this color correctly. It has lots of little speckles, but they are truly like bright candy colored speckles. It's showing darker and dimmer in here than it really is. I mean, the aquas and the pinks and there's little flecks of yellow, they really pop in person, and I'm getting a whole lot of shadow right now. I'm not sure if closing the window would fix that. We can try it. Maybe get a little white balance using, maybe get a little white balance using the window. Check that out. We have totally changed the lighting in here just by closing the window. So we've lost some of the natural light, but check out the candy colored speckles in this yarn. It is so beautiful. This may be my favorite Southern Skeins hand-dyed surprise yarn that I have gotten. And I love how it's knitting up in the Petal Party Crop. It's just going to be such a fun and beautiful top. I can't spread it out a whole lot because it is on a shorter cord. I need to move it to a longer one. I'm only about a 1/2 inch from where it's joined in the round after the sleeve opening. And I plan to put it on a knitting barber cord and try it on just to make sure, because the sleeve opening feels a little small to me, but it may not be. It just might be my perception, or having it bunched up so much. And also the pattern says that it will grow with blocking, which I absolutely believe. So I'm going to put it on a cord and try it on before I get too much farther in case I need to take it back and add some length to the top. I probably don't. I have super short shoulders, but I'm excited about this one, but I didn't get as far as I wanted to on the road trip because every other round when you're knitting flat, and even when you join in the round, is a lace round. And I am paranoid about messing up lace because it's harder to drop back and fix it than it is other stitch patterns. So I was stopping to check and read my knitting and make sure the lace was absolutely lining up correct. But that meant a lot more focusing on it in the car than I usually do. I get car sick, so I have to be careful. I do take meclizine to counteract that, but I try not to take too much because eventually I'll spend all of my car ride sleeping instead of getting to knit. So I start with a very tiny dose. So I don't spend a lot of time reading in the car, and I try not to spend too much time looking down. So it was kind of slow going on the Petal Party crop, but it's worth it. I'm absolutely in love with it. I think it'll go faster now that it's joined in the round, because when you're knitting it flat, there's a whole lot of purl back. And now those will be knit in the round instead of having to purl the whole way. And so I hope that'll speed things up. If you watch Kel Knits, her Petal Party crop is amazing and beautiful. And it just made me even more excited to get mine started. It's been on my list, like I said, since the pattern came out. And I am super happy to have gotten started with it. So that is, I think, all of my works in progress. If I'm remembering correctly from what I already filmed. And filming disjointed like this is definitely for the birds, and I hope to not have to go through it again. I hope to have learned the secrets of this HD camera and get it right next time. Let's talk acquisitions really quick. If you are not interested in acquisitions, thank you for coming and joining me for a little bit. Oh, it drives me crazy when I can see that my clothes are off center on the screen, but then I move them and the camera is mirrored from what I'm doing. Anyway, sorry. I am going to talk road trip at the end. So if you're not into acquisitions, but you do want to hear about our long road trip, feel free to skip forward. If you're not into either and you just wanted the knitting content, thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe or both. It helps with my reach, but it also just gives me the warm and fuzzies. And I also, let me know what you're working on. The comments and the chatter and the interaction really make my day. And I'm here to be a part of the larger knitting community. So please share with me what you're working on. But on to acquisitions. So on the road trip, we ended up in Idaho Falls for 2 hours. Or no, not I. Sorry. Strike that, reverse. We ended up in Jackson Hole for 2 hours because our alternator went out in Grand Teton and we had to be towed to Idaho Falls. But the ride we could get lived in Jackson and was able to come get us and take us back to Jackson, where we could get a rental car to go to Idaho Falls. A whole lot of convoluted nonsense, but it worked out. We got to see some old friends, however briefly, and in the 2 hours we were in Jackson Hole, I convinced my husband to drop me off at the yarn store. The yarn store is Knit on Purl, and when I filmed this the other day, I showed the gorgeous little stitch markers that the proprietor gave me when I checked out, and now I'm not sure. I might have moved them somewhere to use them. I'm not sure where they ended up getting set down. But I asked to see the local or regional yarns that they carried because when I travel, I prefer to get things that I don't necessarily have access to at home or not easily. And I like to see what's made locally, and they had such a huge selection of local and regional yarns because of the area that they're in. Um, it's just, it was so much. Like, there was Farmer's Daughter's Fibers, and there was everything. And I ended up getting Mountain Meadow Wool it's called Tweeds in Gypsum, and it is their sport weight yarn. It says it is 100% mountain merino wool grown on Little Ranch, Buffalo, Wyoming. And let's see if we can, yeah. Okay, so you can see is a white and a silvery gray twisted marled together. So I bought 5 skeins, and my plan is to use these in place of the Spin Cycle Metamorphosis in the Andrea Mowry pattern Metamorphosis. So I think that's what the Spin Cycle yarn is also called. Anyway, I don't remember. But I'm going to use this in place of the main color of the Spin Cycle. And then I have a variegated blues and turquoises and greens, maybe some purples in there. I know that's, sorry for the leaning, that's part of my kind of standard color scheme. But anyway, I have a sport weight in that is plenty of yardage. And then with these skeins, now I have a whole nother sweaters quantity. And the Mountain Meadow Wool is just so squishy and bouncy, and I'm very excited about it. There were so many things to pick from. I even looked at a bison blend yarn, which was soft and gorgeous, but only available in the natural light brown color that you would get from blending wool with the brown bison fur. And I just wouldn't have ended up wearing that light brown color. So as soft as it was, I wouldn't have gotten as much use out of it. Also, it would have cost a whole lot more to get a sweater's quantity of that, even if it was being divided with another yarn, than the Mountain Meadow Wool. I mean, let's be honest, like, I did have some budgetary considerations in there, and bison is just so much more rare than merino that it would have just been cost prohibitive, I think, to get a sweater's quantity in that. And I don't want to buy just a single skein that I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do with it. If I buy a single skein, I want it to be like, oh, I looked at it and I would love for it to be a Musselburgh hat, or I would love for it to be a pair of socks. Like, the single skein needs to have a purpose. And I didn't used to shop like that. I used to just grab whatever was pretty, and so I have like an extensive stash that doesn't necessarily all have purpose yet. And now I try and shop with a whole lot more purpose in what I'm getting. So all that to say, I am super thrilled with my purchase from Knit on Purl in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And the owner was lovely. The customer who came in and started talking to me was lovely. It was just a really nice experience, and I would 1,000% recommend that shop. The next place that I actually got to go to a yarn store, and the only other yarn store I was able to visit on our trip, was in Idaho Falls. So the reason we had the car towed to Idaho Falls is because none of the shops in Jackson could look at it for at least 10 days. And by then we needed to be back home, back at work. Both kids had summer camps booked. Like, that just was too long. So we found a shop in Idaho Falls that actually was available to look at it first thing Monday morning when they opened. And it was Saturday when we got towed. So that worked. Also, we were going to Idaho Falls anyway because I have a cousin who lives there. So we had a place to stay, and that was nice. You can probably hear my dog shaking and his collar rattling. But we went to Idaho Falls, and the day we borrowed a car and kept our Yellowstone reservations that next week. But the day we came back to pick the car up, the yarn store was still open. And yarn stores can have kind of limited hours, which I totally understand. But it meant that most of the small towns that we drove through on our way through Wyoming and stuff, the yarn stores weren't open when we passed through. So the yarn store in Idaho Falls was open for just a little bit longer after we picked up the car. So I took my cousin's truck and I was like, y'all have fun and I'll see you in a bit. And I ran over to the yarn store. They didn't have sorry, my dog is, he's old and sometimes he stumbles around. They didn't have as extensive a local or regional selection as Knit on Purl did in Jackson, but they had a local dyer who made special things for their shop and also has an online store. And I went through everything and found a gorgeous... Now I have to find it. Okay. I found where I said it. I found a gorgeous sock yarn that is 90% Targhee wool and 10% nylon. It is Masquerade fingering weight, and it is by Blue Savannah. They do have a website, bluesavannah.com. And she dyes on a whole bunch. I assume it's a she. I'm sorry. I guess I shouldn't. They dye on a whole bunch of different bases. Even across the fingering weight, I saw at least 3 different bases. There was a merino cashmere nylon. There was a Happy Feet Dye For You base. There was this Targhee base, and then there was DKs and other things. But I chose the Targhee, one, because we spent quite a lot of time driving through the Targhee National Forest on this trip, and so I thought that was fun. But also because the Targhee apparently took the dye, the accent colors especially, much brighter than the merino cashmere nylon. So I didn't want the Happy Feet because that's fairly commercially available. And I looked at the MCN, but like I said, the little flecks of colors that are in this colorway just hadn't taken as brightly as they had on the Targhee base. And I really wanted that brightness of the pink and that brightness of the turquoise. So I'm excited about this. It's super squishy and bouncy and springy. It is 450 yards for 4 ounces, so it seems like maybe it's a slightly thinner sock yarn, but just the way it squishes, I'm very excited about. I don't know if I will hold it single or and do standard socks, or hold it double and make myself more like DK weight socks. I think that it would be gorgeous either way. But I'm excited about that purchase. So that was all the yarn that I bought on my trip. I feel like I was very restrained. Okay, just a little bit more on acquisitions. And yes, I realize that I feel like I'm restarting every time I have to film a little chunk, but it's an effort not to have to refilm a 4th time. So I have one more acquisition, at least until this afternoon, because I saw that on the tracking, my yarn for the Chantilly cardigan is out for delivery today. So hopefully it really, really does come today and I can actually swatch tonight and get started. I'm feeling a little behind because all the other test knitters started while I was still on my road trip, and I ordered my mohair from the UK, so it is taking a little while to get here. But I'm very excited. To go with the mohair I ordered, I am actually going to do the Chantilly cardigan, or I'm planning to do the Chantilly cardigan in, sorry, my dog, unfortunately, got to the outside layers of my Nutiden. And I don't think he meant to. I think he jumped down from the chair and got tangled. But I have 500 grams of this yellow color. It is not as light and buttery as I thought it was going to be, at least from the photos. It is definitely darker. There are flecks in it of darker, you can see the darker wool that is, here, let me see if it'll focus better. You can see the darker wool blended with the yellow in there, and I was hoping for a slightly lighter color, and there's way more in the bag because I have 500 grams. But I have a kind of a bright light yellow mohair that is being delivered today, and I'm hoping that once I swatch it together, I will love the color and it will bring out the yellow more, and like the darker will kind of recede to the background because the halo will be the yellow. But I'm really excited about this, and I'm hoping it's going to work for the Chantilly cardigan because the pattern is written for holding 2 strands of fingering weight together plus a strand of mohair. And 2 strands of this plus a strand of mohair should give me a light, bouncy equivalent. Also, there are parts of the pattern where you drop the second strand and it's a single strand plus mohair, and I can still achieve that with this, and that will be so excellent. And then I have to decide how to do the ruffle. I can either, because it's written for a single strand, I can either do the Nutiden by itself, or I could do the mohair by itself and have just a little light mohair ruffle. So I'm going to wait and see until I get all the way to that part of the pattern what I might like the best. But I'm excited about this yellow Nutiden. If I don't love it with the yellow mohair, then I'm going to try with a cream color mohair and see if that brings out the color I want better or softens the darker tones in the yellow more. Because you can see this isn't quite my yellow. My yellow isn't as, this one's almost mustardy looking from a distance because of the darker wool blended in, and my yellow is much more buttery. This will also be my first time working with the Filcolana Tilia, so I'm excited to get that. And just in case, I did order Filcolana Arvetta to match the Tilia in case I just can't make it work with the Nutiden. I didn't want to have to wait for more yarn to come, so I just ordered it all at once. Along with the yellow in my Nutiden order, and yes, I realize I'm already ordering more Nutiden even though I haven't used my first Nutiden, was this blue, and it is showing up darker on screen than it is in person. It is a lovely medium, not really a blue-gray, but definitely like a soft blue. Let's see. It's still showing a little dark, but I absolutely love it, and I have 500 grams of this as well, and I have not decided. I'm like really in a cardigan phase right now, even though I have a hard time finishing cardigans. Is that weird? Do you like to make cardigans? Do you make steeked cardigans, or do you only make cardigans you can knit flat? And if you have favorite cardigan patterns, especially ones that would work with Nutiden, please send them to me. If you remember my last episode, I talked about the black and white Nutiden, black, white, and gray really, that I had ordered and how I want to marl it together with the colors offset so that it just kind of creates its own interest as I knit it up. This blue I could do on its own, or I'm happy to hold it with a mohair if I can find one that goes well with it. The kind of cream color I got in my last package, I think I'm going to do a tulip jumper by Melody Hoffman. And in my package this time was just a little bit extra, was just tucked in between the bundle of yellow and the bundle of blue, was just this little bit. And I actually think it's the same color from my last order, so I'm going to check. But maybe it means I get just a little bonus bite. But maybe I'll hold it with a leftover from something else and do a hat. Like, I don't know. But it's just this little chunk, little bonus bite of Nutiden. I'm really excited about working with the unspun yarn. I think it's going to be really fun and a very different experience. Hopefully it doesn't slow me down too much on the test knit. Oops, sorry, I kicked the camera. Because instead of the 8 weeks that everyone else has had or is having, I will be down to 6 weeks almost by the time I get to start. So fingers crossed, although it is knit up on decently big needles and looks like it goes really fast, at least from watching other people in the test knit. I'm so excited seeing how far they've gotten already. It's gorgeous. So that's it for acquisitions. A little bit of road trip talk if you're interested. We road trip almost every summer. We try and hit national parks, state parks, do some camping, visit friends or family if they happen to be along the way. Sometimes we choose our route based on who we're going to see along the way, and sometimes we choose our route based on the national parks we want to see, and then we contact the people who might live along the way and say, hey, do you want to have lunch or dinner or coffee or say hey or whatever. So this year we started out by going to South Dakota, and we stayed at my sister-in-law's house, and we went and saw the Badlands, and we went to Mount Rushmore and Custer State Park, which was amazing. I would actually recommend Custer State Park over the Badlands. The Badlands are great to see, but it takes about half a day. So we did the Badlands and then went to Wall Drug, which is a huge tourist trap, but we knew that going in, and we went for ice cream. We didn't go to buy a million tchotchkes and trinkets. So we went for ice cream, and they still have 5-cent coffee. So it was just fun to go. It was a good experience. We also got their donuts to go to take back to the house for the next morning, and that was really fun. They do homemade donuts in-house. But anyway, Custer State Park has so much wildlife. Like, we just sat there and watched prairie dogs, which I am told are pests in certain parts of the country, but they're not common where I live, and I'd only ever seen them in the zoo before. So I was super excited. They were fun to watch, listen to them chatter to each other. So we sat and watched prairie dogs for a while. We saw bison. There were wild, and I say that because I know they feed them and they keep them in a certain area, and people pet them and take pictures with them all the time. Donkeys in one section of the park, and let's see, what else did we see there? So many deer. Might have seen some pronghorn from a distance and stuff. It was just, I think they had elk also. There was a lot of wildlife. And we camped in the Sylvan Lake campground at Custer State Park, and the water was so cold, but my kids talked me into getting in anyway and had so much fun splashing around. We also went to Wind Cave National Park while we were up there, and my kids actually did the hour-and-a-half tour where you go down like 400 steps or 450 steps, or it's not down that, it's down half and up half. But in a tour group, you go so slowly and you're stopping so often to look at things that you don't even notice how many steps you're doing. And the kids did great, and they really enjoyed the cave, and it was nice to see them be in awe of some of those rock formations. It's very different from other caves we've taken them to in the past. The biggest one that we had toured with the kids is Alabaster Caverns in Oklahoma, and that one has very different formations and very different rock than Wind Cave does. So seeing the rock formations in Wind Cave was just very cool. The kids enjoyed the tour. It was nice to spend some time down in 55-degree weather after the heat of the afternoons. So we really enjoyed South Dakota, and it was someplace that I'd only been as a very small child, and my husband and kids had not been to at all before. So that was a lot of fun. From there, we drove down to Grand Teton. Sorry, I totally feel like I need a drink, but I did not supply myself with one before I got started. Anyway, we drove down to Grand Teton. We stayed in a small town overnight somewhere on our way down so that we could get up and get there early in the morning and check in and set up camp. And that was a lot of fun because another friend of ours had been camping his way, like backcountry camping his way through some parts of the national park, and he had been at Grand Teton for 3 or 4 days by then. And we were arriving that day, and it was his last day. So we met up and got to cook lunch together and do some hiking and just chatting and catch up, and that was really nice. It was really that night that the light came on in our car, the battery light, indicating that the charging system was not functioning properly. And we were just like less than a quarter mile from our campsite down at the lake. So we did drive back to the campsite, and it was fine. went to bed, got up the next morning, and it was still on. So then we had to decide what to do. So it was a lot of time on the phone with tow trucks, with repair shops, and just getting it all figured out. At that point, it was Friday, and we decided that rather than get towed on Friday, since nobody could look at it till Monday at the earliest, we would just keep our Grand Teton camping reservations and stay there, and the tow truck would meet us on Saturday at checkout time. And that ended up working out great. We could only go places we could walk from our campsite, but we were very close to the big lake. We were in the Coulter Bay campground and very close to a visitor center, a market, everything you could want. So we spent a lot of time walking down to the water, splashing around, building things. I spent a lot of time knitting on my Musselburgh hat because it was easy to carry down to the beach. And the kids really enjoyed it, even though we didn't get to drive around and see the whole park. On the one hand, there's a lot of things we had planned to see. On the other hand, there's something nice about not being able to cover it all and just sitting back for a while, roasting marshmallows, just relaxing. And so while it wasn't the way we planned it, it ended up being okay. And then Saturday, we would have driven straight to Idaho Falls, except for having to be towed. So instead, it was the trip to Jackson, renting a car, and then driving to Idaho Falls and staying a couple of nights with my cousin. And that was a lot of fun because we don't get to see them very often. And we, since we ended up needing to stay an extra day because we were waiting for word on the car, we actually ended up going to, I think it's called Harriman State Park in Idaho. It's part of the supervolcano caldera in Idaho. And there's like a big wide river that runs through there, and lots of people were fly fishing. There's a historic ranch there. A group of railroad tycoons used to own the property and had a summer getaway there, and eventually it was consolidated and donated to the state of Idaho and made into a state park. So we took the kids on like almost a 4-mile hike. It was slow, but it was fun. Through that state park, and it was really nice to get to have that time with my cousin and spend the time just catching up and doing something that we all loved. So from Idaho Falls, we borrowed a car from him and ended up getting to keep our Yellowstone reservations. And we did so much at Yellowstone. We saw a coyote, we saw a bear, we saw more bison than I can count. So many elk, big bull elk with the giant racks of horns. Or antlers. I forget which elk have. I think it's antlers. It was just amazing. And I'm so grateful that we were able to borrow a car and get to keep that reservation and get that time. Since I had just been in February and I wanted to share it with my kids, but also see some of those same places in the summer. And the only other time I've been to Yellowstone was about 20 years ago or so on a road trip with a friend. So it was really nice. Wasn't as crowded as I thought it might be, but we spent every waking minute out in the park. We didn't spend any time at our campsite. We cooked on the back of the truck. We watched sunsets from wherever we were. And I think that was totally the way to do it, because as the sun began to set, every place cleared out and there was nobody. Like, we got to go to Mud Volcano and there was only one other group of people walking around there. And when we went down to the boardwalk the first night by the lake, there was one or two other groups of people even walking on the boardwalk. So we spent most of the time like totally on our own. And it was just a wonderful way to see parts of the park. We were up at Lower Falls at dusk, and it did start to rain on us at one point, but it rains quick and it clears up quick, and there's more wildlife out at dusk. So when we saw the coyote, it was at dusk, and the bull elk just laying near the road, it was almost sunset. So I think that was totally the way to do it, and we really enjoyed it. Then we had to go back to Idaho Falls and pick up our car, which was fine. We got to spend an extra night with my cousin. It just meant that we were a night behind in getting to Colorado to see our friends there. So we ended up actually on the road an extra day. We were planning to come home on the 16th, and we didn't come home till the 17th. And let me tell you, rolling in at 1 a.m. and then getting up to go to work at 8 a.m., be at work around 8 a.m. the next morning, that's rough. The kids had camp, I had work, but I think that extra day on the road to give us time with our friends in Colorado was 100% worth it, and really brought a nice, relaxing, but also joyful end to our long road trip. So we took something that could have really spoiled our time, and we just rearranged and made things work. And I think that that's part of travel. I think that that's a good thing for kids to see and experience, is that flexibility when you're traveling and things don't go 100% to plan. It's just, it is what it is, and you move on and still enjoy your time and don't let it spoil everything. And I think that that was the right way to deal with it, and I'm so glad we did. And the car made it home no problem. The alternator was completely replaced. It was not cheap, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So if you stuck with me through all this, I'm gonna throw some pictures in at the end. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to so much more knitting. I didn't knit as much on the road trip as I had thought I would. I always think I'm going to knit more than I do, but, I just really wanted to be in the moment and enjoying all the things, and now we're home and it is too hot to be outside, so I am 100% inside right now and looking forward to just cranking through on more of my projects. It was great to see you, and I hope to see you again next time. Let me know if you are a camper or a road tripper, like what your favorite destinations have been. We have not settled on what we might do next summer, and we usually start discussing it almost as soon as we get home from our last road trip. What are the things we want to see next? We try not to go the same places every year. The Rocky Mountain section of our passport book for national parks has gotten very full, so it would be nice to go to a different region. See a few things that are maybe not directly west of us. So anyway, just let me know if you're in the U.S. and you are someone who likes to hit up national parks or road trip, what your favorite destinations have been, what you've enjoyed the most, and let me know what you're knitting on. And I will see you. Hopefully I can go ahead and record next week and it be a little bit less disjointed and awkward. But if not, it could be when school starts again. I'm just not really sure. Summertime is such a crazy time and everything is always up in the air. But take care, and I will see you when I see you.